What's up, guys? We are back with another Star Wars Black Series review, and we are jumping into the 40th anniversary wave for Empire Strikes Back. Now, a lot of this entire line, this subline, is not going to be getting reviews because, well, almost all of it is just repacks with no real changes. We are taking a look at one out of Wave 1, though. We're taking a look at Luke Skywalker. I did come across the entire wave, but this is the only one that has anything worth talking about. So we've got some new deco going on here. We've just got some new stuff going on from the neck up. This guy does come on the vintage style, larger format card backs that we saw with the A New Hope line that they did a few years back. They do seem to be a little flimsier. Maybe at first or second glance they feel a little thinner. I'm not too sure just yet. And then, of course, these do have those little Hasbro warning packets floating around in them like every figure they make has. So that's a different change from the A New Hope line as well. So you'll have to deal with that if you're an on-card collector. The presentation, though, is fantastic. I do really like these. You've got the card back there that mimics a vintage collection style figure. You've got Luke there in his Bespin fatigues, roaming the halls of Cloud City, and then the figure in the bubble. And then the back of the package has got some cross-sell for this particular wave, as well as a little bit of a write-up with 1,000,001 different warnings. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our 40th anniversary Bespin Luke Skywalker. So again, the one figure in this first wave that has any real improvements to it that will make somebody like me want to buy a figure again. Because I've already got that original Bespin Luke Skywalker, and it's kind of a mess. And this one is definitely trying to make up for some of those past sins. So let's take a look, see how this guy moves around. He is definitely the poster child for an older Black Series, because they didn't do anything to the body on this figure. So you've got a head that can look up a little bit. He can look down pretty good. You can rotate at the neck. Arms go out at the shoulders, not even 90 degrees really. They rotate there. You've got a single, slightly better than 90 degrees, rotating elbow, and then you've got vertical hinges and rotation at those wrists. You've got a ball peg waist, so he goes backwards, forwards, and he goes side to side and rotates. He goes pretty good side to side, rotates backwards and forwards, not as good, but not terrible either. Legs go out, they kick forward, they kick backwards way, way far. You've got a thigh cut, which is really tight. Double jointed knees, of course, which are really tight. And then there is no boot cut down there, even though he's got a spot for one. And then you've got rocker and you got hinges down at those ankles. So if you're familiar with older Black Series, or just kind of standard humanoid males, then you know what to expect. He moves around, but he is definitely not as dynamic as some other figures we've seen recently. Now, when it comes to the overall look and feel, I figure let's just jump right in and take a look at the comparison, because there's not a lot to talk about here, and there's not really anything different from the neck down on these figures. They are, for the most part, the same. They just have a few slight differences, and most of that just comes down to paint application, where someone might have been a little more heavy-handed than another on the wash, because the figure is really just cast in plastic with his kind of fatigues color, and then he's got a wash all over him. So you've got a little bit more wash on the chest of my new figure versus the old, a little bit more on the old for the legs versus the new, things like that. We've got the floating belt system here, which is really nicely done. It hangs nicely. It moves well with the figure. It's got a little bit of paint application on it as far as like the buckle and the rivets, things like that. Of course, you've got your holster over here and a hook for the lightsaber on this side. Color choice is really good. It's very crisp and clean. No issues with paint slop or anything like that on the new one. I actually did have some on the old one. And in general, it's just a decent sculpt. There's not a great deal to go into on this one because it's a jumpsuit, really. It's a guy in a jumpsuit. There is a lot of texture all over it. It's 100% textured from head to toe, so you can feel it all over the pants and the jacket, and everything is sculpted in there from the pockets and things like that. And then that wash really does bring it out. It makes him look incredibly dirty, but it does bring it out. Of course, though, I mean, the big thing is definitely what's going on at the heads on these figures, because, I mean, it's a night and day difference. So this is obviously the area where folks like me who already have the old figure are going to wonder, do I actually need to get this one? And the answer is obviously yes. If you really care about having the best version of this character on your shelf, this is the best way to do that. It's a night and day difference. There's really no comparison here. This old figure is just that. A really old figure in a line that was notorious for not having good looking human heads. This is a new sculpt with photo printing on it, and it looks a lot better. I don't think that it necessarily, in all angles, in all lighting, has the best Mark Hamill likeness. I think some of it's kind of lost. Some of the details are maybe a little soft, like from the side. He doesn't really look like him to me. Sometimes he looks a little more like Luke Skywalker in a different instance in Empire, like when he gets out of the bacta tank after he kisses Leia. A lot of times I'm getting that kind of look out of him. Granted, it's the same movie, but he does look a little different at times. I do think that it's a much improved head sculpt. There is no doubt about it. Paint application is fantastic. There is a little bit of kind of a puffy eye thing going on with this figure though, due to the paint applications around the eyes. I can kind of see it. I know what they're going for there, just based on how Mark Hamill looked at the time, but it does look kind of odd in certain instances. I do think though that it's definitely going to play second fiddle to me when it comes to the updated Luke Skywalker head sculpts. It still doesn't reach that level that they got with Jedi Luke. That said though, I mean, just let's look at them. They're so far apart that there's really no comparison. If you have this old figure, you simply have to replace it with this one, because even though I don't think it's 100% there, it's just, I mean, a million times better than anything they ever had going on over here. Now, as far as accessories goes, Luke has the same kind of stuff that he came with the original release, but it's not exactly the same. Some things have been changed a little bit, which is just kind of odd. One thing is good, the rest is not as good. So we've got our blaster here, which is pretty standard. We've seen this before. So brown, black, silver, nothing too crazy there. Familiar sculpt work, familiar design, fits in his holster, fits in his hand, no problems. This is like the one instance where I really care about Luke having a gun, so I'm glad we've got that for him. Where things have changed, though, is the lightsaber. Let me take it out of his hand here, because it's basically the same hilt, it seems, but with a little bit of a difference, because the blade is now different. It has a different peg on it. It's a longer peg, it's a thinner peg, and it doesn't fit all the way into the hilt, at least on mine. It wants to go in, and then it just sort of hovers there. It sits fine, it's not going anywhere, but it doesn't sit in there all the way. It's not flush with the hilt, and I cannot get it to go in there without doing some modifications. The blade itself is actually thicker than the previous release, and it's a deeper blue as well, so that's a good thing. The only real problem is that it can freely spin in there, so it shouldn't really be able to do that. So that's kind of an oddity. I'm not sure if that's a thing with just mine, or maybe it's the whole run of them, but there are some definite changes to how these two pieces connect in this particular release. Otherwise, though, I mean, we're seeing the same kind of stuff this time around, just with what seems like a little bit of a difference. So at the end of the day, this is a definite improvement. There is no denying that. I don't know that I'm going to put it as highly as, say, Jedi Luke when it comes to the improvement from original figure to photoreal applications, but this is definitely an improvement. There's no way around it. It certainly looks a hell of a lot more like Mark Hamill than that original figure could have ever hoped to be, and that's kind of the pain point that all old Black Series human figures have. They just don't look all that good when you compare them to anything modern now, and this one is definitely a little bit higher up on the list at that point. I still think that the likeness is slightly a little bit off depending on the angle or maybe the lighting, but for the most part they do have it down pretty good, and frankly for a lot of folks who have missed this figure, this is the best opportunity to get him, because that old figure just is an old figure that doesn't look all that good. So don't go after that old one anymore. Unless you're a completionist, you need to get this one. So that's going to do it for this look at the Star Wars Black Series Empire 40th Anniversary Bespin Luke Skywalker. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.